Колеги, доброго.
Dear colleagues, good afternoon. Ukrainian Crisis Media Center continues its working day, and the topic of our next press briefing shall be the Parliament has passed the law on reform of the state-owned and municipal mass media. What next steps should be taken, and our speakers shall be Taras Shevchenko, director at the Institute of Media Rights, and Roman Golovenko, lawyer at the Institute of Mass Information. The reanimation package of reforms and RPR as an advocacy organization, we call on adoption of the law, and we called on adoption of the law, and the law has been adopted. As for me personally, I have been working on this draft law since 2001, and I would like to say that I'm very happy that the law on denationalization of mass media has been supported by the majority of MPs, and the law has been approved in general. The law supposed two-stage reforming. Within 2016, the first stage will take place, and only those mass media sources shall be reformed in 2016 which are willing to be converted, which feel that they have enough strengths. The first stage is for the strong mass media sources who are ready and who have been waiting for this denationalization of mass media law. They would like to retain their name, which this law gives them the possibility to do, and also to retain their designated purpose and the range of topics. And now this opportunity is provided to them. The second stage shall be at 2 years loan, and the founders shall take decision either to privatize the mass media source or to close the mass media source. In democratic countries, private mass media sources are in operation. So this reform, this is not a superficial one. This is a very in-deep reform. This is a counterbalance which would enable us to control the three branches of power through mass media. The fact that the changes shall help us, the changes shall be that when oligarchs have mass media sources in their ownership, and now small editorial staffs shall be owners of their own mass media sources. In districts, in regions, there are very many community-based or municipal-based mass media sources, but also we have national level, nationwide, state-owned mass media. $13 billion are spent from the national budget, and municipal budgets are paid by the state for maintenance of the state-owned mass media sources. And the matter of economic mass media sources, what for do we need the state-owned tax purpose mass media source while we have private mass media which have already come to this niche and which elucidate and interpret all tax reform experts. We understand that we shall have 1 year of reform period, and those willing and strong mass media sources shall use this first stage to be reformed and to be transformed. We are happy that the process of reform has been deblocked and it started to move forward. Now you see Ms. Svitlana Ostap has come, and now I give the floor to Taras Shevchenko, to Roman Golovenko. You know that some state administration or district or municipal administration usually are owners of mass media sources, and both chief and editors and journalists, they feel dependent on administrations because they are the founders. For example, a regional state administration may be the founder of such a media source. And the founders appoint editors-in-chief and they hire the staff. As usual, there are 3 founders, such like Council of Region and Regional Executive Body and editorial staff. Such 3 founders usually are founders of municipal mass media sources. That is why a local magazine or may be always blamed by bureaucrats that they are not happy with the articles, because in these articles the magazine or the newspaper do not give them compliments, so they have the mechanism of influence and they have budget in their power in their so they can give budget to the mass media or they can cancel this item of budget. Thus such media sources just have no other opportunity. They should give courtesy as and other praises and commend the bureaucrats at regional and district regions. And now the mass media sources shall be transformed, they shall be denationalized, and they shall be privatized according to this law. There is a lot of criticism towards this law, and this law has been discussed for, the draft law has been discussed for many years, and this is because the national executive authorities and local authorities lose their mechanism to influence on mass media sources. Such editorial staff, such journalists now will be free to write articles and to express their own opinions, but not the attitudes of the bureaucrats. Unfortunately, 85% of population get information from TV channels, but not from from the printed mass media sources. That is why you know that Russian Federation channels, because of that, have large influence on the eastern Ukraine because of TV broadcasting. This printed sources denationalization will not be of very high influence if the national or local public administrations would have some need to write articles in the name of the state. It would be possible. It would be possible to do in a formal way, and it will cost less to the state than maintenance of printed mass media sources during the entire period. So that they praise local bureaucrats. And now I am giving the floor to Svitlana Ostap, NGO Telekritika media expert. We are happy and we would like to greet us with the adoption of this law number 11 and 23 for 20 years. Ukraine has been trying to leave the totalitarianism, and just during previous years the systemic reform of mass media started in reality. Mass media should not belong to national or local administrations. Journalists who now work in national or local community-owned mass media sources, they will never criticize the bureaucrats either of national or local levels. And mass media sources who are private, they are targeted on the needs of target audience, while other journalists who work for state-owned sources, they just should praise local bureaucrats. This is their job, and this is not right. And now the nationalization of state-owned and municipality-owned mass media sources started because the law the day before yesterday was adopted. There are some parliamentary mass media sources. They are not numerous, but millions of budgetary funds are spent to maintain them.
Why Loss of Ukraine, Голос України has its finding. They receive 50% from the budget, and then 50% they earn from ads and other commercial sources, and they spending raises many attentions, many questions. They have circulation of more than 66,000 hryvnia. And experts say that a newspaper, daily newspaper with such a big circulation could be self-sufficient commercially. Then Vice magazine, it gets some 6 millions from some 3 millions from the budget, and when at the committee hearings the editor-in-chief was informed that they will get just 700 hryvnia, which is sufficient for the first quarter of the year, then you thought you should think how to exist. So the editor-in-chief just said that 700,000 hryvnia is not enough, and she even did not understand that this money are allocated just for lawful closure of the magazine. The topics covered by the magazine are very surprising, are very strange. So at the hearings, the editor-in-chief was unable to prove that her magazine is worth existing. Although both magazines were created for just one purpose, to publish official parliamentary documents, but this does not require the editorial board to exist, because the documents which are passed by the parliament, they should be just printed. Unfortunately, the editorial boards have not understood that they have to disappear. The law on the nationalization of the state printed mass media and municipal printed mass media requires that also municipal printed media should be reviewed and considerably cut down. Last year, we analyzed all the spectrum of published municipal newspapers and found out that approximately half of them are self-sufficient commercially. Some part of them are not viable in long-term perspective for different reasons. Partially due to the lack of contacts with power, partially to insufficient advertising markets in those regions. Those newspapers who are commercially deficient, they will need to think how to retain the audience and how to attract new readers, probably through subscription, probably through compulsory subscription for some local municipal bodies, but nevertheless this should not be from the budget. Probably those newspapers which are deficient in at the regional level, at the district level, probably they should be supported via a new mechanism which has to be developed by the Cabinet of Ministries. In Europe, in the world, currently there is the trend that printed media gradually disappearing in general, but municipal publications still survive because local population is much more interested to know what's going on at the local level in their village, in their town. They wish to read about their city council decision, they wish to read about neighbors. So these newspapers could be and should be supported, but these schemes for support of these newspapers should be transparent and understandable for broad public, because now those tenders for these newspapers which are closed, which are non-transparent, which are ununderstandable, they are of improper quality, and that is what we will request from the authorities to support. Thank you, dear friends, and whether we have any questions from the audience. HAPS portal, Konstantin Makulski. Could you please explain what to do in a situation if the powers at the local level, they do not agree with the actions, with the way of action suggested by the new law? As far as I understood the question, the answer could be as follows. The law provides for some transition period, some half a year, and if then this period, the 3 years, 3 years, and if within this period